So, in case it wasn't obvious from the last video, my favorite genre is that thing where a bunch of people are trapped in an isolated location and one of them is a killer and they're killing everybody off and they have to figure out who the killer is. That is a very specific subgenre of a whodunit. A whodunit is a mystery where the big question is who done it. Whodunit, no, not that one, was a murder mystery reality show that aired on ABC in 2013. And in case you're curious about how one can combine murder with a reality show, don't worry, you're not the only one. 13 guests arrive at Rue Manor. We got Ronnie, a bounty hunter, Dana, a nurse, Chris, a former Miss Nevada.
Hi, I'm Chris Kratz, Miss Nevada.
Sherry, a cheerleader, Cam and Ulysses, who are both attorneys, Lindsay, an engineer, Sasa, a journalist, Adriana, a crime reporter,
Kelly, Oklahoma City Police confirmed they are investigating this claim.
Dante, an insurance investigator, Dawn, a retired homicide detective, Melina, a flight attendant, and Gino, a trivia host. They all know that they're here for some kind of puzzle game, but they're not entirely sure what it is.
Right now there's one thing on my mind, and it's what's the game, what am I here for?
But a few red flags go up when we meet Giles.
My name is Giles, and I will be your butler.
Giles sends the guests off to explore the mansion, and then they hear a loud crash. What the heck? Sherry is dead! Well, okay, not really. Sherry was a plant, and the game is to solve her murder.
This note was slipped under the door to my butler's quarters. You've all been personally selected to play my diabolical game of life and death. Your job? Stay alive long enough to discover who I am.
The guests have to choose between going to the morgue, which is a thing that this mansion has, the crime scene, or the last known whereabouts. The crime scene doesn't really yield a lot, just a pool of blood and a bunch of plastic fists. But the last known whereabouts, they find a message written in the steam on Sherry's mirror.
Meet me at the fish tank.
And in the morgue, they pull some kind of musket out of Sherry's neck. After they have some time to swap information, they then have to solve a riddle.
Only think twice on what lock you turn. From the passage you find, you'll surely learn.
Ronnie basically solves the entire thing, but there was a gaggle of people following him from room to room, so they also get the solution.
I should have just shut up and walked to that trunk.
And then after that, they have a little bit more time to barter before they have to go into an empty room and say what they think happened.
The slingshot. Maybe an old-fashioned pistol, I'm not exactly sure, but the ball was about this round.
And then accuse one of the other contestants of being the killer.
Gino, I know you're the killer, and I'm coming for you.
In real life, the way that they were actually determining who actually figured out how the murder was committed was they were having the contestants take a quiz. However, I guess it doesn't make for good television, so we just get them standing in an empty room. I like how whenever they get something wrong, you hear a little whoosh sound.
She drowned.
Afterwards, they go to dinner. Giles explains how the murder got committed.
Hitting Sherry in the back of her neck, severing major arteries, killing her instantly.
He hands out some envelopes, and everybody opens their envelopes one by one. Basically, if you had a decent to good theory, you get a spared card, and if you're one of the 2 or 3 people who had the worst theory, you get a scared card. And the person with the worst theory overall,
She drowned.
gets killed. So that is our formula. Murder, locations, discussion, riddle, more discussion, state your case, cards, murder, wash, rinse, repeat. And then at the end of the show, there will only be 2 contestants left. One of them being the winner and one of them being the killer. And the winner gets $250,000. So this was actually a very expensive show to film. And if you were paying attention at all to any of the clips I was showing, you probably think that's funny, because a lot of stuff looks really, really fake. It was really nice of the killer to dip his
Or her
feet in ink before going into this room, and also the wheels of the cart they were using too.
Behind one of the busts, there is a black scorch mark on the wall.
Would you be shocked if I told you that the budget for this show was $750,000 a day to film? Because it was. The thing is that even though there's a lot of shit that doesn't look real, they do actually set off a lot of explosions. They did actually light a stunt person on fire, and there is a lot of gore makeup. But due to the nature of the show, the artists had no way of knowing who they were putting the makeup on ahead of time, and all the people they were putting it on, aside from a few stunt people, were not professionals. They were just regular people. I want to make it clear that it's not dummies in the morgue, it's the actual contestants. They have to lie there completely still while the other contestants flip them over, pull bullets out of them. Stick tweezers up their nose.
It was extremely difficult when people were touching you, but thankfully there are enough cameras that they were able to do cutaways. But yeah, it was pretty hard to stay still when you were basically in underwear and there are people who didn't really seem to like you poking around and touching you.
They put Adriana in a tree, and they also had her film an action scene. Well, kind of an action scene. She drops a cereal bowl and runs. So yeah, this isn't a normal show where you get eliminated and you just leave. They actually have to do some acting. Actually, for most of the show, they have to do some acting. The creator of the show, Anthony Zeiger, refers to the show he created as being reality fiction because they're putting real people into obviously fake situations and expecting them to go along with it.
I'm afraid the death of your compatriot was no accident.
However, he does seem very offended, where some people seem to think that the contestants on the show are acting. But here's the thing. Giles' dialogue is the only scripted dialogue in the show, except for a couple lines in the finale. But the contestants are expected to go along with all of this and pretend that it's all real, that their lives are in danger, and that all their friends around them are dying. So they would have to act.
I got a lot of flack on Twitter about when Cam said, I'm a little reluctant to jump into this pool water because Dante just died in there.
This is still the water that Dante died in, and it hasn't been cleared out, which kind of grosses me out.
But it was just Cam buying into the narrative. That's all it really was. It was just him honoring the audience, not insulting the audience.
For the most part, I could buy the tears. $250,000 is a life-changing amount of money, and you're under a lot of stress. Apparently, they were all very shocked to see somebody running past on fire. They thought it was actually Dante.
We all knew it was a stunt. You know, there were firefighters around and stuff. But I thought that was actually Dante.
At that point, are you guys wondering what did I get myself into?
Yes.
There's just a few moments where it's a little,
I'm terrified. Where's Don?
Maybe he'll just do carbon monoxide and I can just go straight to sleep.
This is still a reality show though, so there are a lot of moments where the contestants say or do things that are completely normal for a competition, but just seem callous and horrible when you add on the murder aspect.
Every time somebody else dies at Rue Manor, I get that much closer to $250,000. I hate to say it, but I get a little happy inside.
Just do me a favor. Take Sasha next. We don't need her here. I am not at all sad to see Sasha dead. Somebody had to go, and I couldn't think of a better candidate than Sasha.
Do you know what else was weird? Giles.
By show of hands, who wants to live? I have no idea. Me too.
In episode 2, he shows off his nifty ankle bracelet and reveals that he's trapped there along with the contestants. But you wouldn't really know it by watching him. Not only does he do everything that the killer asked him to, he does it with a smile and a pun.
The killer asked me to flag you down. Some of you are hot on the case, but some of you look a little bit burned out. Sleep well, or should I say, rest in peace.
The killer did instruct me to shine a little light.
After Dante was burned alive, he rolls out a pig and lights it on fire.
I just lost my appetite.
Too soon?
There's this one part where they find Dana and Shasta dead, and then Giles comes out with the maids, does a little dance with them, and then says,
I was a little bit of a lady killer.
Is that something the killer instructed you to do? In the finale, we actually get to see Giles' employment contract, and it says specifically that he is in charge of setting traps, springing traps, and cleaning up the bodies. Did you not read your employment contract? That wasn't even the part you need the magnifying glass to read. So I asked my sister what she remembers from this show, and she said, the cringe.
Turn it off, because that's gas.
Well,
Turn it
should I
off.
throw my flag
Turn it
in?
off. Turn it off.
I want to throw my flag in.
It could explode.
I think it's mostly just due to the fact that you're putting real people into obviously fake situations and just expecting them to act natural. Not to mention how cartoony a lot of the deaths come off as. I remember I was watching the 3rd episode with my mom the night it aired, and then when she saw the mountain lion, she stood up, said, "This is stupid," and then never watched the show again. But Giles, for as much as he doesn't really make sense, saves the show.
Yee-haw.
He is the cheesiest, hammiest, just most delightful thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Hey, luau! I love America!
The actor, Gildart Jackson, took his role very seriously, and you could tell.
Giles.
It has begun.
Apparently, he never broke character the entire time he was on set.
What was Giles like in real life?
Giles. Yeah, he never broke character. I don't know.
He almost makes the sort of uncanniness, the cheesiness, the whole campiness of the show feel like it was on purpose, like it was a stylistic choice.
Who sits in like a 1920s style men's bathing suit when people are dying?
Which apparently it wasn't. If you can get past the gut reactions, oh it's acting, oh it's fakey, oh it's hokey, oh it's silly, you can get past all these things that people jumped on early and see it for what it is and realize that Anthony Zeiker, who's on the biggest shows in the world, would never do anything hokey and silly.
At least for now, you've made the grade. In about an hour, you'll all get laid.
I will now run off into the woods to take a tinkle.
Killing Adriana was a blast.
And I get that the story presented isn't supposed to be anything deep, but there's a lot of little things that don't quite add up. So Sherry's death. She is invited to a beautiful, extravagant mansion and is told that she has free reign to explore it, and she goes to take a shower? Also, the glass in her forehead doesn't really make sense if you think about it.
You get hit in the back of the head. Okay, no glass goes in your forehead at that point. She falls into the glass tank.
Yeah,
cracks. If she takes it cracks, but if she takes a chunk out of it, it's gone immediately.
Yeah, and then the water pressure makes it break, which is, I think could be legit.
That could be
glass
legit.
flying because of that and embedding into her skull.
Yeah. This is not the aquarium of the Pacific. There aren't orcas in there.
Also, the killer gives everybody free reign to explore the mansion, and they just assume that no one's gonna see this shit. Dante, who has literally been labeled to die, is given a medallion by the killer, and he just puts it on. Was there an actual reason that the killer made everybody go out in the woods and take a horsey ride? They couldn't slap Ulysses with a board in the comfort of their own home. Wow, that ankle bracelet Giles is wearing sure has a lot of range. Hey, wait a second. They're out of the mansion. Were they not trapped there the entire time?
I'm afraid none of us can leave the mansion.
Actually, the show never gives a reason why the contestants can't just leave. And also, Giles has a working cell phone?
Who on earth would be calling me here? It's the killer.
There's a working home phone in the mansion too, because he calls himself at one point with it.
Who is this?
I'm Chris. This is Melina. Who is this?
This is Giles. Who do you think it is? That's my phone.
So the contestants just stay there of their own free will? Is it because they want the money? You guys sure are gambling with your lives, huh? Yeah, okay, obviously. The reason that nobody tries to escape is because this is all fake. And yeah, obviously the deaths were written separately. They weren't thinking of how they would work in context with the rest of the show. There were actually 2 novelizations of Whodunit. Yes, really. And yes, those are the actual titles. Both of those gave reasons why the guests couldn't just leave. One of them took place on a murder island, but the other one took place in a mansion just like the show does. The only difference is that in the book, the guests witnessed a maid getting fried on an electric fence. I mean, I'm not saying I necessarily had to fry a maid on an electric fence in the show. I just think that if you're going to insert a plot into your reality series, that you should try to cover all your bases. And not giving a reason why the people trapped in the murder mansion are actually traps in the murder mansion is kind of a big one to leave out. So yeah, the story isn't anything great. How's the gameplay? Well, despite the murder, it's basically just every Survivor-esque game show that you've ever seen. Right off the bat, you have guests lying about their occupations.
I want them all to think that I'm one of them.
Forming alliances, and you do kind of have to form an alliance due to the fact that you are only able to access 1/3 of the clues, and if you want to get all of them, which, trust me, you do need to actually talk to other people.
I already know that I'm gonna have to cooperate with 2 others to get the whole story.
So by the second episode, 2 clear teams are formed. One consists of Cam, Ulysses, Lindsay, and Chris, and the other team consists of everybody else in the house.
It's us against them, and that's their choice.
So you might be thinking that the one with the most amount of people would have the biggest advantage, just due to the fact that the entire basis of the game is who has the most information, and also who gets to solve the riddle. So if you have more people in your team, then you have a bigger chance of someone in your team being the one to solve the riddle.
5 people know what I know. What do I know?
That's not how it works out, however. Over the course of 3 episodes, it goes from 5 against 3 to 1 against 3. It's insane. Cam's team solves every single riddle except for one, and he kind of talks about that one riddle that they missed in a Reddit AMA he did shortly after the finale aired. And he actually clears up some things that I always thought were a little weird about the show. So we're going to take a little deep dive into that, boys and girls. So, according to Cam, the main reason that the other team won that one riddle was because they were following Lindsay around, and they actually skipped a bunch of steps.
It looks like they found something, so I follow her to see what they're up to.
Now, ordinarily, I would just chalk this up to Cam being bitter about the one riddle he lost. However, he goes on to say that after that happened, the producers made a very strict rule that you have to go to every step of the riddle in order to be able to solve it. And every episode after that, you actually see people hunched over their puzzles, not talking to each other. You see people not following people who clearly know where they're going.
Good luck, Melina.
Thank you!
And then there was Gino's death. Now, on the surface, Gino's death is pretty standard for this show. Loud noise, huge red herring. Actually turned out he died in a pretty standard fashion, but the killer took painstaking effort to make it look more bizarre than it actually was. See Sherry's sling-shotted corpse getting electrocuted, Don being mauled by a mountain lion after getting poisoned, Ulysses being ejected by poison and then a snake hidden on his horse, and Ronnie also being poisoned before exploding. But there was another aspect to his death. The killer actually left him a note beforehand saying,
"Steal Giles' cell phone and you will be spared."
So he stole Giles' cell phone, and that's kind of it. Considering that Gino's whole death took place in the dark, you would think that maybe the killer would use the cell phone to track him in the dark, but no, that's not what happened. He just took the phone, and that's it. Even Gino didn't like it. Cam, in his Reddit AMA, actually kind of presents a theory as to why this happened. So, according to Cam, in the 6th episode, the one where Dana and Shasta get murdered, there was actually supposed to be a scene where the contestants get to search the room they were found in. During the search, Gino apparently found a card and he stuck it in his pocket. This is against the rules and it caused a lot of drama, but none of that drama actually made it to air. So the producers said that the card was not part of the mystery and the whole scene was removed. Cam thinks that the whole cell phone stealing bit was added specifically to address that, and yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Not only did he have to die because he had the worst statement of the case for Dana and Sasha's murders, but Gino proved to be dishonest. An unworthy adversary.
It actually clears up Dana and Sasha's deaths a little bit too. It always bothered me that they never explained how they're propped up like this. I was expecting taxidermy, a pole up their back, being frozen. I mean, it's specifically mentioned in the show that the room that they were found in was very cold.
Cold in here. It's freezing. The killer has made the house ice cold.
And the killer even acknowledges the temperature of the room at the very end.
I even turned the AC on full blast because the scene gave me the chills.
I actually went on Wikipedia just to see if there was an explanation for this that I missed, but they just said it was rigor mortis. Dana's literally standing though.
How is Dana just standing there?
No, something is clearly missing here. Something that clearly got thrown away when they were forced to cut an entire scene from the show. Gino is the next victim after Dana and Sasha. This is mostly due to the fact that Ronnie just fed him completely wrong information.
I've moved the wound to a different arm. I've neglected to tell him about the wound in the back, and I'm not gonna mention the white fibers in their nose.
It's okay. Ronnie doesn't make it much farther. Gino's death was probably the most complicated, and Ronnie and Melina were not enough people to go to all 3 of the locations. So they're kind of forced to make wild guesses, and...
Is it possible that he had a trained monkey?
Your monkey, who you had trained.
You know, I actually feel a little bit bad for the people on the show whose actual job it is to investigate crimes.
I am a detective. I've been for 17 years.
The show is not set up like a realistic crime scenario at all. In real life, you get to view all the evidence. You don't have to form alliances and backstab people in order to get all of it. And you don't have to solve as many riddles.
I am so bad with riddles.
And I know it's really easy to make fun of this, but I mean, okay, I can kind of see his logic. The killer obviously has a soft spot for animals. There was a monkey motif for the last puzzle, and it was an important clue that the chandelier got lowered and not dropped. It was still way off the mark though, so Ronnie gets dead. So now it's just Melina versus Cam, Chris, and Lindsay.
Now it's just me against 3.
Yeah, no, she's screwed. The show does try to throw her a bone by having a super secret 4th location that the contestants can compete to go to.
If Melina gets this, it may be enough for her to piece together a solid theory, even though we outnumber her.
But Cam wins it. Melina does get to go to the morgue by herself, but it's not enough. It takes the show a really long time to actually kill her though. First they have to go on a super spooky limo ride.
Crap! We're going off a cliff.
And then, when they come back, oh no! Giles is in danger!
As you can see, I'm a little tied up at the moment.
Which is apparently a thing that happened while the killer was in the limo.
Here's to you dying and me living. Oh.
They try to explain it away in the finale.
The killer forced me to sit in that chair and tie myself up as part of his or her diabolical plan.
But I feel like the whole thing probably would have made more sense if instead of going on a limo ride, the contestants just came downstairs and Giles was gone. You know, look, you didn't even need the limo at all. So a bunch of gas seeps into the room and, oh fuck, where'd Melina go?
Melina. This is so creepy.
Oh, she's dead. Unlike most of the other deaths though, hers is actually pretty obvious. So instead of that, the last 3 contestants have to solve puzzles.
9 white pieces will unlock your key to victory. Then, inside a mystery room, you will find only me.
1 person will win, 1 person will die, and 1 person is the killer. And don't worry, they have some friends coming to help them along.
Don't wave to them or say hello. You're just as stinky as the next fellow.
Oh my god, what is this? I get that having all the eliminated contestants come back in the last episode is a staple of reality shows, but you did kill them. Whodunit was never really grounded in reality, but there was never anything supernatural going on. And they don't even try to come up with any in-universe explanation for it. The dead's just up and walking around now. Cool. The puzzles are based off of each individual murder, except for Giles' puzzle, who is now in the attic completely fine. I am so glad that they added that really suspenseful cliffhanger. It really paid off in the end. I honestly thought that the final puzzle would be to find Giles.
If you don't find me, I'm afraid I will die.
But no, it's to play Spot the Difference and put a snake in a basket. And arrange tiles. And also the rhyming thing has started to run a little thin.
It's rare that you'd survive the attack of a lion. I died from cyanide without even trying.
I do really love Adriana on the swing though, that's a thing of beauty. And oh my god, Indiana Jones Ulysses. If I was to guess, they probably did that because he didn't have a particularly interesting gore makeup. He actually barely had any gore makeup at all.
Not a single scratch?
And I just love how the contestants awkwardly say hello to and thank the zombies as they're running around from puzzle to puzzle. Hey, buddy.
Thank you. Thanks.
That's really cute. But yeah, this is absolutely the dumbest part of the show, and it's about to get a lot dumber. So after solving the puzzle, Cam and Chris get told to go into one room and Lindsay into another. This can only mean good things. Cam and Chris have an awkward little chit chat till a screen pops on and yep, there it is.
There's supposed to be somebody in the suit of armor? Was it a trained monkey?
I think it was a robot.
It was supposed to be a robot.
So now it's just Cam and Chris. Which one is the killer? Well, Chris is the one speaking in rhyme.
Down to just us two. Wait, killer is you?
It was you! You done it!
Enough of the riddles, the ruckus, the rhymes. I committed those murders 11 straight times.
Chris gets taken away, Cam gets the goods, and then he goes outside to say final goodbyes to all of his friends who died horribly for him to amount his fortune. Fun fact! Shortly after this episode aired, Dana and Sasso were on Twitter saying that Cam had flipped them off during this part.
She was pissed. She was telling me that Cam was like, giving the finger on the walk. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa.
This doesn't really have to do with anything, I just thought I would share. Before I go any further, I just want to say I don't have anything against Cam winning. I didn't like him very much when I watched the show initially.
I am not at all sad to see Sasha dead.
But now, just he doesn't actually do anything that bad. There's literally a part where the other team tries to get him to betray his teammates, and he doesn't do it.
Bonnie came up to me a little while ago, and they essentially all voted unanimously to freeze you out, and he wanted me to join in on that.
My problem is that the person who won a show called Whodunit never accurately guessed who done it.
Gino, Melina, Lindsay.
But the runner-up got it right every single time.
Chris, I know you're the killer. I'm starting to like you a lot, but Chris, I know you're the killer. Chris, I still know it's you.
That's the weirdest thing about Whodunit. It's not a whodunit. The who doesn't matter at all. Every challenge in the entire game has to do with solving the how the murder got committed.
You will adjourn to the library to pitch the true crime. You will also be tested on your ability to interpret the evidence that I have set.
And then they just sort of slap on an accusation along with it. Lindsay got the killer right from the very first episode, and it did nothing for her. I mean, why even add the element of the killer if it's not going to add anything? The murderer does not know how the murders were committed because they have to be a real contestant who works alongside the other contestants to solve the crime. And Zyker said that the murders are motiveless crimes, so it's rinse and repeat in terms of crime solving week to week. Wow! It's like there's no evidence whatsoever.
And then I thought there was all this physical evidence left behind. We found, Cam, Melina, and I found this these little red pieces that looked like Chris's suitcase. And so all along things would be confirmed, and it wouldn't be about the evidence, fake evidence, obviously, that was nothing in the end.
Which is weird because the creator of the show insists that there is.
Is there a hint in every episode that led you to Chris?
No, not every episode.
Okay.
She would just do small things like, I've shotguns, I've this, that, that was a cop.
Not that he would know. He didn't even know who the killer was for the first 8 episodes.
I didn't know who the killer was until episode 8. Wow. Mid-episode 8.
They did put all the evidence they did have into tiny little montages at the end. So why don't we analyze that together right now?
Up top, Don. Ex-cop. My dad was a cop.
Yeah, you and thousands of other people. Does everybody with a cop dad own a murder mansion?
I've shot guns. I know what it looks like.
Fair, I guess, but also, this is America. Most people have guns. And also, that's not a scripted line. Those 2 tidbits were actual facts about Chris's life that she just kind of said. I guess Chris knowing how to open the door opening device is a valid clue, but there's literally instructions on the door opening device of how to operate it, and also they didn't give her any information on any of the murders. The show tries to pass off the fact that she never got a scared card as some kind of big clue.
Have you ever been scared?
I've not.
Interesting.
But that was just because she was genuinely very smart and she wanted to challenge herself to see how well she did.
I really played just like everybody else, and I applied to be on the show because I genuinely wanted to test my skills and prove to myself that former beauty queen could outwit some really smart people.
I respect the hell out of her for that. And I honestly believe that if she was just a regular contestant, she would have won the entire thing.
We have a clause in the rules that the killer can be scared.
Right.
But cannot get kicked off. And we're praying to God, can't Chris just get on the bottom two to kind of throw this thing up? And she was never, ever scared.
So why not have Chris make a bigger impact on the game then? One thing I came across while I was doing research for this video was a lot of comparisons to The Mole. The Mole was an early 2000s reality show hosted by Baby Anderson Cooper where a group of people complete challenges to earn money, but one person has been planted by the producers to sabotage the other players.
One of the 10 players is a mole. A double agent working for us to sabotage the group's efforts.
This is pretty close to the basic premise of whodunit, so much so that I guess ABC saw that as a problem and had executives on set to make sure that the two shows weren't too similar. I have to wonder if maybe the killer was supposed to have a bigger part in the show when they were coming up with it, but then ABC cut it down so that the killer and the mole weren't too similar. Or maybe not. Chris says she wasn't allowed to know anything due to legal reasons.
Legally, it would have been unfair for the producers to feed me any information because then technically I could have picked the winner.
So who knows? Whodunit got canceled after just one season. I think it's just sort of to do with the fact that it was a very expensive show to make and it didn't really get a lot of viewership.
People thought it was scripted and we lost like 30% of our viewers walked out the door. We lost like 1.5 million the next week.
And also tie that in with the fact that a lot of people genuinely thought that the show was killing people. Yeah, that was a thing. People actually thought that ABC, which is owned by Disney, by the by, were airing snuff films every Sunday night. Never mind the fact that Melina, right after they find Sherry's body, says,
In my heart, I know it's not a dead body, but it feels too real.
But alright, they actually acknowledged the scandal in the finale.
Some of you even thought people were actually dying on the show.
And also the studio decided to clear up any confusion by airing interviews with the dead contestants at the end of every episode.
I'm not really dead, Mom. It's all just makeup. It all comes up.
There were also some other extras too that you could find. Anthony Zeiker, the creator of whodunit, used to play mystery games with fans on Twitter, including me. He actually deleted his Twitter a while back, but I still have some old tweets and some old DMs. Basically all I remember is you would solve a puzzle, which basically involved you taking a photo or drawing one and sending it to him, and then he would DM you a clue. And then after you got that clue, you would DM him your theory. And then if you got it right, you got a point. Whoever got the most points won a trip to Whodunit Season 2.
Somebody out there has already won a trip to the set of Season 2, so at least for that person's sake, there better be one.
That's unfortunate. I only really remember this crime, and that's just because it's complete bullshit. So this guy is found hanging. The bottom of his feet are all burned and there's some remnants of dry ice under him. So pretty clear cut what happened there. Someone stood him up on a block of dry ice and then it melted and then he hanged when it was gone. But no, apparently the guy committed suicide like that. Was going feet first into a wood chipper too tame for you? The killer also had a Twitter account and would interact with fans and would sometimes tweet out Amazon links to buy the 2 tie-in books I mentioned earlier. These links don't work anymore, and I'm not sure that the books are even still available to buy. I was actually going to do a full review of these books, but turns out I have a lot to say, so maybe I'll do that in another video, I don't know. But let me tell you, the absolute highlight of any of the books is towards the beginning of the first one. So it's more like a howdunit, not so much a whodunit. What a thing to say in a book that literally has the word whodunit just written in giant letters at the top. Despite whodunit not getting a second season and Wikipedia being very final about the fact that it's over, there is a somewhat recent casting call for a season 2. I have no idea if it's legit, but if you scroll through it, there's a surprising amount of interest. Also, there are people playing their own versions of whodunit on social media to this day. As it turns out, some people don't mind the fakiness or the hokiness, or the silliness.
But people hung in there, and the young demo, the young people between 10 to 16 are addicts.
You know those murder mystery dinner things? People didn't go to those because they were gritty or realistic. No, they went to them because they were fun.
Now I know that you have murdered many people. Isn't that true, Slick Steve? Yes.
People like to solve mysteries and watch people like themselves solve mysteries. I think that's what the appeal of escape rooms are.
The quickest to solve it? Get out of here! Come on! Oh, wait.
I don't think we're there just yet.
Whodunit's basically like an escape room, but whoever escapes the worst gets murdered, and then a Brutus Butler makes a pun. I doubt a season 2 will ever happen, but if it does, I will definitely watch. I mean, if I'm not already in it, that's not a hint for anything. I just